So sometimes those stories that we have about our lives, about ourselves, are not really there. I've talked about in the past couple of videos, past couple of weeks, that we all, for the most part, have certain stories that we have like a reoccurring theme in our lives. Like some people's reoccurring theme is like situations that they've put themselves in because they don't see their own value. Or sometimes your reoccurring theme is that you have a fear of abandonment, or that you are a people pleaser, or that you don't know how to stand in your own power. Like we all have reoccurring themes in our lives and our experiences. And I've talked about recently how you don't ever really get to graduate from moving out of those reoccurring things until you really like work on them, until you observe them, you dissect them, you understand where they come from, and also until you like really become at peace with them. So I had a really big breakthrough this week that I am super kind of shocked and excited about too at the same time. I feel like I'm in this big moment of like evolution that I wanted to share with you. So, all of us have experienced, I would say for the most part, when we were little, you may have seen like a shadow in your closet. Or maybe there was like something like a shadow under your bed. Like there was kind of this like underlining fear of something that you thought was like a big scary monster that was like lurking in the shadows, but you weren't really sure if you were seeing it, but you were just like scared of it. You were in fear of this, like this thing. And what usually happens whenever we go and like turn the light on or go open the door or go look under the bed to really like meet and greet that shadow, that monster we're scared of, most of the time there's nothing there. And I was journaling this morning and I was really pulling apart and thinking about how this fear or this story of abandonment that I have had, like as a reoccurring theme throughout my relationships, throughout my life, throughout like situations I've been in, like this reoccurring theme of abandonment is this like big scary monster that actually hasn't ever really been there. It's just been like in my imagination essentially, and I'm going to explain why. So, as I'm kind of moving and shifting out of different relationships in my life right now, I am realizing that in the past, what I have done is I have known and noticed that certain relationships needed to shift and change, but I was too scared to hurt somebody's feelings or to deal with change, or I was not trusting that everything was happening the way that it was supposed to be. I was too scared. So instead of just like trusting that intuition and kind of moving towards separating myself from like certain people or certain situations, I actually held on as hard as I possibly could to that person or to that situation. And then essentially what ended up happening is that the person or situation ended up abandoning me. They like ended up parting ways with me. And as I was sitting and journaling and processing today, as I'm like shifting and moving through different relationships in my life right now, and I personally am making choices to listen to my intuition and move accordingly, like to allow relationships to shift and change. As I'm like seeing the difference in me as I'm going through this experience right now, um, I was just really reflecting on this like story that I've had in my life about being abandoned by people that I care about, or being abandoned in situations that I've put a lot of energy into. And I realized that I never actually truly was really abandoned by those people or by those situations. It was really one of those things that I had abandoned myself. I had abandoned my own intuition, my own inner knowing. And by me doing that, it forced the hand of the other person or of the situation. And they ended up like shifting or changing or moving. And it made me feel like I was getting abandoned. And it made me realize today, I'm like, okay, this big scary monster that's been under my bed, like this abandonment wound, this idea that people always leave me, or I always get abandoned by people. This has been like this big scary monster that I did not realize wasn't even really real. And that was such an empowering moment for me to realize, like, oh my gosh, I've had a reoccurring story in my mind, in my life, that like everything always plays out like this. People always leave me. People never see my value and they always just abandon me. Like, this has been a reoccurring theme for me. And so now that I can finally understand how this like fear of abandonment has just actually been a big scary monster living under my bed, and that when I flipped the lights on, the abandonment monster was not actually in fact there. It was just a part of my imagination, a part of my interpretation of the situation. Now I'm starting to understand and realize that had I had listened to my inner knowing and not abandoned myself and abandoned my own like gut instincts about certain people or certain situations, I would have peacefully bowed out of those situations instead of forcing that situation's hand and feeling abandoned ultimately. So let me tell you, as I am realizing that my own personal story of having an abandonment wound or any type of just like story or like ideas about my childhood or ideas about my life, like as I'm starting to realize that some of these stories, a lot of the stories are just that big scary monster living under your bed that is not in fact there. And once I went to truly like greet and meet this big scary monster that I had been avoiding, and I went and faced it by walking into like trusting my inner knowing, trusting when it's time to leave and move from a situation. It was like I've turned the lights on and I realized that there was nothing there. And it has been so freeing to realize that as soon as we start like meeting and greeting these monsters in our lives, these stories in our lives, as soon as we really start approaching those, it's like they kind of vanish and they're not really even a thing anymore. And I'm seeing this theme show up in my life a lot lately, like where I have a story about what has gone on in my life or what trauma that I have or what triggers that I have. I have a story, and as soon as I really approach it and try to deal with that story, it's like it goes away and it kind of just like bursts like a bubble. It's just like no longer there. And I realize how much I've been holding on to in my own life and how much I've been kind of like getting in the way of my own progress by holding on to these stories and these attachments of ideas that I've possibly experienced in my past. And I wanted to just make a video about it, like some of the biggest, scariest things that you are trying to avoid, whether it be feeling like people don't see your value or feeling like you're not good enough and you're scared to stand on your own 2 feet. Like, regardless what it is that your story is, if you can meet and greet those pieces of you, it's like just as simple as you flipping on the switch, the light in your room or in your closet. Like, once you can meet and greet those scary pieces of yourself, it's like they magically go away. I won't get too crazy there. They don't magically go away, but you can like evaluate and see them. Like you see them and you can deal with them at that point. So I wanted to make a video about this because this is like, man, over the past handful of months, like I have had breakthrough after breakthrough after breakthrough. It's been a very uncomfortable couple of months. I've learned a lot, but I'm just growing at rapid speed and I'm so grateful and I'm so happy to be able to share it with you guys. So I want to know in the comments below, like, what big scary monster have you confronted in your life lately, or have you not confronted in your life lately? I want to know. Please like, share this video, subscribe to this channel. I am going to continue to like talk to you guys about my personal growth journey, and hopefully it helps somebody. So I'll see you guys in the next video.